Welcome to Bridge Out Ahead, the podcast where we dig into what's under construction in life, business, and community. I'm your host, Bridger Hopkins. Around here, we're honest about the journey, the progress, the setbacks, and the detours that shape who we're becoming. Today, we're sitting down with Jenny Giving, team lead at First American Title in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, a powerhouse in the world of real estate closings, customer care, and team leadership. From her early days in family furniture business to climbing the ranks in banking, Jenny has built a career on honesty, hustle, and a whole lot of problem solving. We're talking about what it takes to lead under pressure, pivot careers after 17 years, and why she's so fired up about the industry and what's coming up. Let's get into it. Hey, Jenny.
Hi there.
Thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's dig into title work. A lot of listeners might really not understand what it is that you do. And so if you could give us a brief overview of what do you do every day?
Yeah, so I definitely agree with you. I think a lot of people, when they're buying or selling a house, they see us at the closing table and they think we're basically just there signing documents. And a lot of times, they expect the lender to be there and they see us. And so really a lot of our job, and actually really the majority of it, happens way before that. So as soon as we get a purchase agreement from any realtor or for sale by owner or attorney, we then begin our work. So what we're doing behind the scenes is working with our examiners to review title, previous ownership, making sure how properties are vested. We also make sure that any prior liens have been cleared. So that would be like mortgages, or if there's, federal tax liens, things like that. We also look into divorces, if those were cleared properly, anyone associated with the title has been cleared. There's dead people, all kinds of that stuff. So, the list literally goes on and on, but there's a lot of things that we're working on, and problem solving, I think, is probably the best way to put it. A lot of times with title, there's messy stuff. And so we have to work on fixing it. And so sometimes, there's errors with legal documents where, typos, things like that. So our job is to make sure when that buyer gets their keys, that everything that has happened prior to that point is clear, and we can ensure that they have clear title.
So it's not just as simple as, hey, here's some money, let's sign this paperwork. What are some of the biggest issues that you guys run into? And with the clear title, what do you see the most? What's kind of out there?
I would say the two biggest that we see, especially in our area here, would be access. So we live in an area where there's lots of lakes and, rural properties. And so we're dealing a lot with access. So resolving access where, somebody's traveled a road for 100+ years, but it doesn't necessarily mean that legally they have the right to do that. And so we have to figure out, a way to get them legal insurable access, which usually involves a survey and usually involves, an attorney drafting a document and recording it. So, and the other one I would say is probate dead people. So a lot of times, somebody is deceased in the history of title and they were not cleared properly after they died. So
That could be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that's interesting about Minnesota, and I've not seen any issues myself, but I would imagine people have gotten in trouble. Minnesota is a 1 to buy, 2 to sell state. Mm-hmm. So that means if there's a married couple, I'm just going to say the husband can go out and buy a piece of property. The wife may not know. And then if they go to sell it, you say, hey, honey, I need you to sign this, for selling this property that we own that you didn't know I own.
Right.
Have you ever run into that where the wife is
Yes. We
unhappy?
have run into it where property was deeded to multiple people too. And so, maybe 3 kids were deeded the property, but they are all married and we have to track down their spouses as well. We've had it where there's been multiple siblings, and there's one that's kind of
out there,
somewhere MIA. Yeah. Or, and they, we do a lot of that. So we do a lot of detective work behind the scenes, believe it or not. So we will stop at nothing, Facebook, obituaries, you name it, to try and track people down if we have to.
They will find you.
Yeah.
Well, Jenny, how did you get into this line of work? Because you didn't grow up thinking, hey, I'm going to be, working in title work, be an examiner, looking at these things. How did you get here?
Yeah, so I would say that's the unique thing about this job. There isn't like a crop of title people. You don't go to school for it, you don't train it. So it's really very limited people that have experience in it. The most relatable field is probably banking. And so my history is banking. I started in the furniture store, family run business, transitioned into a finance company, kind of got promoted pretty fast there, running a company for 7 or so years, and then transitioned to banking and business development with banking, and then managing a bank. But I kind of got burnt out after over 17 years of it. There was lots of changes through COVID and all of that. And I just decided I was ready for something more and different. And this is definitely that. I always tell people managing a bank was easy compared to the job that I do now. It's extremely complex. It's fast moving. It's stressful and it's really competitive, but I thrive in it and I love it. And it's definitely, I always say I wish I would have known about it 10 years ago.
And how did you find out about it exactly?
So I saw a job posting. So there was transitioning happening at our company at that point. And so they were, the current employees were, I'll call it jumping ship to a different title company. And that was just opening here in town. And so there was an opening. And so I'm like, this is my opportunity. And I interviewed, and the manager at the time, the state supervisor, gave me a hug. She's like, you are just perfect. And the same week, their other state manager came and met with me, and he was super excited. And there's a huge learning curve for this job. I knew, and it was kind of in banking too. I mean, you don't just walk in and know everything. It takes time, and I knew it would, but I did not know the extent of what I had to learn. And but I will say we have amazing support too. There's different resources, and we don't know everything. We never will. And it is definitely a case where we're learning something new every day.
So once you made that jump, how was it that, did you have to go to some classes, or was it just kind of figure it out day by day? What did that look like?
So we had, because it was kind of a big transition in the company, the state leadership was on staff. So for the first probably full month, we had leadership in the office with us. And I would say after probably 3 months or so, they kind of backed away a little bit because they could help us out a little bit more from afar. We were picking things up pretty quickly. And so, like I said, banking and lending kind of transition well to this, because a lot of what we do is talking loan documents and things like that. So both Bev, the other closer, and myself have experience doing that. So that was an easy part for us to learn. It's the curative problem solving stuff that we really had to learn. And there's still, with title, as you know, stuff that you run into now, you might not see again for another 5 years, 10 years down the road.
Hopefully
so
never.
Trying to remember how to do it, so it's always good to have our resources when weird things come up.
So you had mentioned you started off in your family furniture store. Mm-hmm. Was there ever a thought that you'd go into that line of work?
Yes. So actually,
Okay.
Of 3 daughters, I was the only one that ever worked for my parents in the furniture store. And actually, I did leave banking for about 6 months with the plan of taking it over. But that store was about an hour's drive each way from where I lived, and I wasn't interested in relocating. I watched my mom and dad do the hour drive each way every day to and from work, 6 days a week, and I did not want to do it. And I realized I was just going to be having my second baby at the time, and I knew that's 2 hours every day away from my kids that I want to spend with them. And I just decided it's probably not the best decision. And so I went back to banking. The same job, actually, they took me back after I had my baby. So
Nice.
Yep.
And then when you were looking for even getting into banking, what kind of drew you to that business and professional services sort of area of expertise?
So I think I've always been strong with business development, I think, and it is because of the roots of growing up in a family business. So, I mean, obviously a furniture store, there's a lot of sales involved, but like I watched my dad, the way he encountered customers to me will always stick with me like the rest of my life. So I believe like honesty is one of like the key things. And I remember my very first job interview asking me, what is the most important characteristic of a salesperson? And I said, honesty. Because if you're not honest, yeah, you might get the deal done, but you're not going to get the next deal, and you're not going to get the next deal, and they're not going to tell all their friends. So for me, that's what it's about, is treating people right, going above and beyond what they expect, and then getting that repeat business.
Yeah. When I like that point you bring up, because growing up, we all heard, or people would say, whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, that's kind of dumb. Like,
Yep.
What's that mean? Like, we wanted to win. This was an important game. And a lot of times it was related to sports.
Mm-hmm.
But really looking at it now as an adult, it's like, oh, okay. The goal isn't actually to win. The goal is to keep on playing,
Mm-hmm.
play the most number of games.
Mm-hmm.
And to do that, you got to play straight. You got to be honest. And then you get asked back to the game. And then that's where the long-term success comes in.
100%. Yeah. And I grew up with like playing sports too. And I do think a lot of that does, develop some of that skill set too, because I do like to win, but I also like to play fair. And so there's, it's, if you put in the work, usually you get the results. So
as a part of this discussion, we always like to talk about the rough patches too that we encounter. And you'd mentioned COVID was one of those instances where kind of threw a wrench into what you'd been doing. What did that look like for you in that position you were in at that time?
Yeah, so COVID, I think, affected obviously everyone in different ways too. But I was in the banking industry at that point, and there were a lot of changes with staffing and corporate, big corporate decisions that were affecting us, small town. So we were running on like very, very thin staff, and it was very difficult. So I was working extremely long hours, and at that point I was in a management position, and I was doing mostly tellering and my, all of the jobs within a bank that you can imagine. And so it got to be very, very stressful, and it didn't appear that there was an end in sight, but, we got through it the best we could. I mean, obviously banking is an essential industry, so It was busy, and
you weren't hanging out at home for a couple months.
No. So I could tell you some stories about that. I'll tell you one quick one. The biggest memory I have from that whole time frame was we had a customer come in with literally a stack of bills that she had put in the oven to cleanse for COVID, and they were half burnt.
Oh my goodness.
Multiple dollars. And yeah, so we saw a lot of interesting stuff happen during that time.
Can you take those dollar bills that are baked?
So we could take some of what she had, but not all. So it had to be
the medium rare ones you could take.
Certain amount. Yeah. Medium rare.
Couldn't take the well done ones.
The well done we couldn't. So yeah.
How do you keep moving when the problems seem bigger than the solutions you've got at hand? You mentioned you run into a lot of stuff maybe you don't see. What's that look like?
So we do a lot of problem solving behind the scenes. So what we do is we try not to alarm people unless they need to be. So we try to look at the problem, figure out how we're going to resolve it, and we try to do that without stressing other people out. That's like my goal. I had one of the most complicated files I've ever closed yesterday, as a matter of fact. And the realtor and the buyers were sitting in the office, and I said, I'm going to tell you a little secret. And they said, what? And I said, this was probably one of the hardest files I've ever worked on. You may not have known it because I didn't have to share it with you, but I said the stuff I had to do to get this one done behind the scenes, so a lot of it is.
I'm sitting here today.
Yeah. You're right. And so I would say the skill set that I have learned that works is to have a backup plan to a backup plan. So I look at a problem and I'm like, okay, I'm going to try this, but I'm going to look into this option and have that as a backup plan. And I'm going to look into this option and have that as a backup plan. So if plan A doesn't work, I go to B. If B doesn't work, I go to C. And that, I think, helps a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How many files are you guys working on at any given time?
So right now, our office has at least 150 files. We've opened 110, I think, just this month. But of course, we're closing a lot too. So so it's busy. And if I always tell people, so if you think of those files, average about 6 people that we're working with on each file. So you're talking lenders, realtors on each side, buyers, sellers, and there's even more people, but that's just an average. So if you multiply that amount of people times every single file we're working on, that's how many people we deal with. So we have buyers and sellers asking us questions. We have lenders needing things from us, realtors needing things from us. So all of that filters through title. And that's, I think, another thing that people don't realize is there's a lot that comes at you.
And that's why you're signing there. That's kind of the terminal of everything that's coming together.
Yep.
Of those 150, how many of those would you say have some sort of elevated issue with them that you're working through?
Half.
Half of them.
I would say half. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, they take, hours of time sometimes. So we have obviously support people behind the scenes too, but some of it, and honestly, I'd say even most, on the files we work in our area, most of it involves us. So, yeah.
Would you say quite a few things are regional, or is it important to understand where you're working and what you're working on?
Yes, definitely. And all states have different requirements, and even counties have specific requirements. So there's a lot to know with that. And we are expanding in other markets, as you know, but, learning those requirements too. So, because, they're all a little different.
Since you've taken this position, have you ever hit a moment where you didn't think you'd get through it?
There's a lot. So right now, like this time of year
Busy.
Busy. And so you step away for a 30-minute closing and you come back to 50 new emails. And of those 50 emails, 50 of them are high priority, they need to be done now. So it's very, very difficult to keep your head on straight sometimes. But we really just have to of the priorities, which one is the highest priority, and kind of just pick away at them like that. We did add to our team too. And honestly, that was a godsend. Ryan on our team he's helping us out so much. And we actually have a seasonal starting for us too on Monday. And so nice. She will be helping us a lot as well. It's just, I think the biggest part of our job is there's just so many things thrown at you. And, sometimes when you for example, yesterday I closed that file from, it was absolutely terrible. And I ended up getting it closed, and today learned that the payoff is getting rejected, but because we overpaid it. And so it's just, some files, it feels like if one thing goes wrong, everything goes wrong, nothing will go right kind of, but we get through it every single time. And I always try to remind myself of that. Even when I'm at my most stress point, it always works out. Every single time it works out. So we figure it out.
You get it done.
Mm-hmm, we get it done.
So stepping into the team lead at First American Title, you had management experience at the bank. How did that look at the bank versus now what you're doing?
So in both situations, it was actually kind of weird because when I took the job as a branch manager of a bank, I had never done anything on the teller side. I knew nothing about it. And so I knew the business development, I knew the sales side of banking, but I had no idea about the everyday operations side. Wow. And so I had to learn everything from the ground up there. So this job was exactly the same. I was stepping into a leadership role without really fully knowing the job and, what it entailed. So again, having to learn from the ground up. But I am very, very determined. When I do a job, I want to be the best at it. And so I will find a way to be the best at it. And so it takes time. Like I said, with banking, it took, a couple years. With title, it definitely took a couple years. So it just, it's just a lot of that grit of learning everything that you can and never being afraid to not know the answer, but knowing who to go to if you don't know it.
One thing I found when I got put into similar positions, it was maybe nice not to know, because then I was never trying to micromanage something. I was like, hey, can you What can you tell me about this? What should it look like? Can defer to these people you're working with. Like, you're the expert. I need to rely on you.
Yep.
And that was always somewhat of a relief in a lot of ways, because I didn't feel like I had to interfere for a long time until, maybe I learned it, like, oh, okay, we need to readjust or shift what we're doing. But being able to count on your people and learn that way can be helpful, though kind of intimidating.
Yeah. And I am big about empowering my team. So from day one, I never, in either job, walked in there acting like I knew everything, because I truly didn't. And so I knew they were more of an expert than I was, but they knew that they had my support on anything. So whatever we could do, I was all about backing them on anything that I could. I think a lot of, too, sometimes when you're starting in a leadership role, you hear, about this person and that person and like different things about them. And I'm very much about forming my own opinion of people and seeing how I interact with them, and not trying to form my opinion of somebody based on what I'm told by somebody else. So I think that goes a long way too. But I'd say the biggest thing, like in leadership, is just knowing that my employees can count on me and I'm part of their team. I'm not, a title that like just, you do this, you do that. I'm willing to literally, water the plants or put the garbage out, which I literally do weekly at my current job. So it's just, it doesn't matter. We're all part of the same team and we help each other out.
And you had mentioned too, being able to, work to high standards and have your heart in what you're doing. How is it that you're able to convey that to the others you're working with?
I think I heard a quote when I started my first job from a senior leader in the company, and his quote was, "Speed of the leader dictates speed of the team." And it has resonated with me ever since I heard that quote, because to me, I believe it. If they see that you're willing to do anything and everything, it inspires your team to do this and want to do the same thing. If they know that you're backing them and you're rooting for them too, again, it gets their loyalty, it gets their trust, and it gets their commitment to do the same thing. And so that's what I think has really, really helped me out.
Cool. You mentioned life is just as big as work. You get a lot of enjoyment on what you do, but having to balance life with work, and work-life balance is kind of a weird thing that I think is maybe pushed too much, especially as people who are kind of more driven or looking to build things, do something different.
Right.
But how do you grow your life into working with what you're doing for your career and what you're enjoying there?
So, I mean, I am a single mom. I have 2 girls. I have a great family support system and all of that, and I always have, and I'm very thankful for that. So both friendships and family have always been there for me to help so that I can continue to pursue and grow with the company that I'm in. Definitely lots of opportunities. I mean, we're a big company. We have exciting things happening. So I am one where I look at something and I literally think, I wonder if we could try this instead. And I don't ever look at the same box on like what people have done or how they've done it. I try to think of, maybe we should try something different, or we should, so that's how I approach things. And so it has benefited me, I'd say, a lot. But I still am trying to do some other creative things in my career path. So I love what I'm doing, but I want more of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You work with a lot of the same people day in, day out. What do you do to keep those relationships going, building relationships with new people? How does that look for you guys with what you're doing?
Yep. So I would say our current customer base is just as important as us trying to find new customers. And so it really is a people business. So knowing that you can count on us, we're available if there's questions. Like pretty much every customer that I work with has my personal cell number to reach me outside business hours, because as we know, real estate is not 9 to 5. So things come up outside of our hours. And so I think flexibility and that do go a long way. But I would say the biggest thing that like we can offer is genuine care. Like, we genuinely care about our customers, and we genuinely care about the people we are helping. And we are invested in each one of the transactions that we're doing to try to see it through to the closing, because we're equally invested as, our customers are. I think that's what sets us apart, probably.
So looking at the next mile, what's up for you guys next? What's coming up?
Yeah, so we are currently expanding. We're opening a new office over in the Hibbing market, which I've been working on for well over 3 years, but seriously for a solid 3, and finally got the green light to go ahead on that earlier this year. So we should be opening our doors July 28th is the official date. Construction will be done. We'll be in there. So super exciting to expand over that way, because I grew up kind of halfway in between, both markets. And so it makes sense for us to expand over that way. I know a lot of people. Yeah.
And when you're doing that, what does that look like for you guys now?
So it's busy. So right now we are going to be covering that office, and actually we have a lot of business over that way. So right now Bev and I have been going to that end of the range probably once or twice a week consistently for closings. So we've been closing at like Caribou Coffees, and we've been closing in realtor offices over there, just wherever we can make it work, even people's homes if they prefer that. So we're really, like I said, flexible, I think, is part of it. But so it's definitely adding more business for us, which obviously, we love. But, it's going to have a need for more staffing too, I'm sure, not down the road too far. So it's exciting. I think growing is exciting, and we have really, really good feedback from the agents over there. And we're super excited about it.
As you grow that team, what's that going to look like for you, and what you're hoping to do personally?
So personally for me, and this is no secret, I'm looking to try to be more of like a leadership role for the northern market. That's what I'm kind of working towards. So potentially like Duluth, Hibbing, Grand Rapids, that's kind of my goal. Cool. It's a lofty goal because obviously, to get the Hibbing office up and running, it's going to take a lot. And, probably a couple years really to get it like fully, functioning. But it's definitely on my radar.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Okay. We're at the end of our discussion. This is called the Toolbox Takeaway. And here we're just wondering if you could leave our listeners with one tool or mindset that can help them in their day-to-day work.
Mm-hmm. So I would say the biggest takeaway for me is to never give up. And I feel like it's kind of cliche, but honestly, no matter what you encounter, I truly believe that like if you keep after it and keep after it, even if you fail a couple times, you get back up, you try it again. You get back up, you try it again until you succeed. And I honestly think that's like the go get 'em, like never give up attitude that I have been born and raised with, that I think has helped me a lot. And I do think that's like, it helps people become successful if you have that mindset, because all of us fail. We don't succeed at everything we try the first time. Sometimes it takes multiple times, but it's getting back up and not giving up that count.
And sometimes you don't know quite how close you are to making it.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly
making
right.
it to that next level or that next step.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you, Jenny.
Thank you. Yeah.
So from the showroom floor to the title desk, Jenny Giving has built a career on truth, toughness, and trust. Whether it's leading a team or opening a new branch, she's not afraid to work to do what it takes to get things done and done right. This episode of Bridge Out Ahead is brought to you by Legacy Bridge Real Estate, brokered by Grand Properties. At Legacy Bridge, we believe real estate is still one of the most powerful ways to build wealth, and more importantly, to build your legacy. Whether you're buying your first home, selling a property, or looking to invest, our trusted team is here to walk with you every step of the way. Legacy Bridge Real Estate, where legacies begin. Today's theme music is We're Making Good Time by Jed LaPlante. Thanks for joining us today. No matter the detours you encounter, the road ahead is still yours to build. I'm Bridger Hopkins, and this is Bridge Out Ahead.